would be great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to welcome everybody. This is the 2023 annual membership meeting for Partnering for Peace. It's December 2nd at 11 a.m. We'd like to welcome you all here for our annual meeting, and we'll get right to our business of approving last year's. But first, I just want to make sure to welcome you all and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. Also, we have most of our board members on. I see Cal. Thank you for joining. Cal Mann, Molly O'Brien, Carrie Golden, our liaison with Rotary International, Ed Pettit, our board member. We have Ted Adams, who's our liaison with Peace Corps. Let's see if we've got, oh, lovely to see people's faces. Let's see. Courtney, thank you for joining us. Maybe we can, Ellen Young is on. Thank you, Ellen, one of our board members. Ruta Casabianca, of course. Charlie Hunt, Steve Werner, our board members. There's Ted. All right. I think we have a couple more people joining, but we will get started as we try to stay on topic. Let me go ahead and share my screen to kick us off here. Oops. There we go. And there we go. All right. So, first of all, I'd like to again welcome you all here and thank you for joining. 2023 has been a fabulous year for us, mostly because Peace Corps is back in full swing with volunteers in 50 something countries. And 2,400 volunteers either serving or in training. So we're doing fabulous there. Let's see, I think, is my screen sharing? Oh,
no, it's not.
Huh. Boy, it's just one of those days, isn't it? Yeah, just one of those days. Well, anyways, as I mess with that, first, I think the first business we have to do is to approve the 2022 annual meeting minutes. Has anybody have a problem with that? Any questions or edits? All right. If not, then could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Charlie Hunt.
All right, and a second?
I'll second, Molly O'Brien.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and any opposed? All right. All right, well, thank you. Motion carried. So thank you all for that. I see we've got some more board members joining us. I see my.
Were you able to find the screen share button on the bottom, Kim?
Yes, I have it. You know, I thought the Partnering for Peace would buy me a new computer, but no luck. So my computer is continuing to cause trouble as always. Let's see, it's still not sharing. Oh, darn it.
Well, for everyone, if you're interested, at the top of the chat, there actually is what Kim is covering, so you can pull it up on your own screen if you would like.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe that might be best. I don't know why I'm having such a problem here. Oh well. darn it. You know, you do all this work. Well, I guess I could share. Oh, well, darn it.
Oh, there you
Um,
go. It's
there it
starting to
is.
screen share. Yeah.
Woohoo. All right. Again, I apologize for that. Well, let's get started. As you can see, our agenda for today is pretty packed, and I apologize for wasting a little bit of that time. We've approved the minutes, and I'd like to move to my report. Here we go. And we can just close that, I think. There we go. As you all know, Partnering for Peace is supporting the Memorandum of Understanding between Rotary International and Peace Corps that began in 2015 and has been renewed now. We continue to support the efforts between the strategic priorities of the two organizations, and we do that in a variety of ways. I'd like to share, just to kind of summarize, 2 slides that I think really resonate with most folks. If we can get to them. Boy, oh boy. There. Oh, no. Okay. The first one is, if we look at the partnership between Rotary International and Peace Corps, it's really a definition of synergy between the two organizations. And this chart I use in any presentation, and I hope you will as well. The left-hand side is the areas of focus for Rotary, and the right-hand side are the Peace Corps sectors. I've taken the Peace Corps sectors and color-coded them to the Rotary colors. So as you can see, it's a really incredible match. I would like to mention, though, one caveat that is, now that volunteers are back in the field and we're engaging more and more Rotary clubs internationally, I think this is an important caveat. Remember, Peace Corps only supports 2 or maybe 3 of the sectors in each country. And it's the government of the country that invites us in to support specific sectors, not what we want, but what they want. Also, each Rotary club around the world has their own focus that they decide on each year, actually. So it's really important to identify when you're going in to do a project in a country. If you're doing a project for water, but the Peace Corps group doesn't really support water as one of their primary goals, you might be hitting your head against the wall, or you might be able to position that a different way. And the same thing with Rotary clubs. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Georgia in 14 to 16, and it took several meetings and several get-togethers and several translations and several supras and wine before we realized that the Rotary Club that was engaging me was interested in children with disabilities, and I was interested in helping the internally displaced people in my settlement. So it's kind of important to kind of identify that difference. Our goal at Partnering for Peace is awareness, education, and outreach. Awareness of the joint projects that we continue to make, education on how Peace Corps works. Again, we hear people, I didn't know Peace Corps was still around, as well as so many people that don't really know how Rotary works and really don't know that Rotary is thriving around the world, and I love to brag about that. And finally, outreach. We try to reach the Rotary clubs, connecting it with affiliate groups in the US, connecting them with Peace Corps sites around the world. And speaking of connecting, just wanted to do a shout out to the Rotary Peace Corps Week that we finished in September. A lot of good work done by a lot of great people. And all of the webinars that we had throughout the week are on our website. And I would really encourage you to look at the individual videos and also look at an excellent report that Fred Cowan did. we hope to use these evergreen videos in several different ways.
Give you some more treats. Do you want to give?
I think need to make sure everyone's on mute. All right, thank you. The second slide that I'm going to highlight here is that one of a lifetime of service. This is a chart that Kevon Bateman, a Rotary actor here in North Carolina, also a Rotary Youth Exchange member and an RPCV, created a couple years ago. But he left off an important segment of it, retirement. And so I've kind of reused his, and I hope, no, he doesn't mind, and have showed a lifetime of service between Rotary Interact, Rotaract, and then a Rotarian for Life, and then PCVs in early career or late career, and then RPCVs for life, as we know. So, and then as a response volunteer in retirement or a virtual program that we're going to hear more about from Ted Adams, I'm sure, or as a full 2-year PCV that I've witnessed. As I met with RPCV groups in Raleigh just 2 nights ago, many of them, well, several of them who I've known for quite a while say, you know, Kim, give us some specifics. We just don't get how this all works. So I continue to be really specific about you know, how we are connecting. Basic things like, you know, how we are, as RPCVs, we're improving the projects for Rotary. Oh dear. Fred Cowan in Kentucky, he did a clothing drive for Ukraine, but the whole thing was spearheaded by an RPCV. Erica Brovette in Washington, D.C., the same thing, spearheaded by RPCVs, but they were Rotary projects. Andy Lennox, of course, is doing a big solar project in the Ukraine. Again, he knew the needs assessment, he knew how to get it done as an RPCV, and connected with all of his Rotary contacts as a Rotarian. Bob Roberts in Peru with greenhouses changed the lives of dozens now of villages across the high country in Peru. So many. Also RPCVs looking to continue their life through Rotary. And I think my example is the best one. When I came back from Georgia, I wanted to serve locally, and Rotary actually just opened the door for me with, you know, opportunities galore of ways I could simply serve my local community in Raleigh-Durham without having to research a lot. And then again, in post-retirement, there's so many opportunities that we have. So now I'm going to stop my sharing, if my computer allows me to do that. And I'd like to introduce our guest speaker who's on her way to the airport. Let's see, I want to make sure. Are you on? Let's see.
Yes, Kate.
Kate,
Kate's there.
Kate, are you on?
I am.
Okay, great. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for the day, who has fit us in, so I'm putting her early on the agenda. Kate Rafferty is a senior advisor for Peace Corps, an amazing person and a great friend of Partnering for Peace, a great advocate for Rotary, and just a fabulous supporter of our group and of me personally. So thank you, Kate. Kate was a country director in Paraguay. Before that, she had several headquarters jobs in Peace Corps. She also took some time off from Peace Corps and was the director of AmeriCorps, National Civilian Community Corps. Amazing. In addition to all the different positions she's held, she has been Chief of Operations for Peace Corps in Inter-America and the Pacific region, Country Director in Honduras, Peru, and Eastern Caribbean. And she began her career with Peace Corps, her journey as a Peace Corps volunteer in Paraguay in the early 70s. So Kate, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you can give us a little talk about where you see the benefits of our organization are, and then maybe a few minutes of Q&A before you have to leave. So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you actually for the honor to speak to this group. I know that Ted's here, and you know, we talk about Rotary a lot when we start to pursue new partnerships around the country and around the world. We always use Rotary as the gold standard of partnerships, and I think it's because of the potential to do things together overseas, and also to do things together in the United States, which that combination is not always the case. I did have the opportunity to speak with some of you during Peace Corps Rotary Week earlier in the year, and I hope I don't repeat too many of the elements of our conversation. I apologize if we do, or you can correct me if I said something different than I said the last time. But my hope is that I'll be able to talk a little bit about the mutually beneficial nature of this relationship. I've looked at the relationship through the lens of a country staff member, and a Peace Corps volunteer, and then also as a member of senior management at Peace Corps in Washington. And quite honestly, Rotary can find itself in each one of those relationships and locations. I'm going to start with the country director, and that's one that I have mentioned a couple of times when I've had the opportunity to speak with some of you at different times. And as a country director personally, and we encourage our newer country directors to do the same thing. I reached out to the Rotary Club. I think of the Eastern Caribbean, maybe because it was one of the more recent, but you know, reaching out and meeting the members of the Rotary Club, joining that group, going to their luncheons, because quite honestly, there and really across the world, the members of Rotary are leaders of the country. They're the leaders in the business world, the nonprofit world, the service world. And so for a new staff person, this is I call it a one-stop shopping. I mean, I get to meet people from across the spectrum, and they end up being a personal support, but also available to be advisors to our staff as we pursue new things. And occasionally they end up being supporters, both financially and emotionally, as we engage in certain projects. So I think for a country director, it's really always a great tip to give them, which is, you know, when you get settled in, find out where the Rotary Club is meeting, and not only join and just attend as an individual, but also find an opportunity to speak about what Peace Corps is doing in that country. For the Peace Corps volunteer, I see there are, I mean, obviously, you know, there are volunteers on this call that represent a variety of decades, and you know, that the relationship between Rotary and volunteers no doubt has changed over the years. But as I look at my more recent experiences as a country director, volunteers across the world have done just what I did, which was search out the Rotary Club and begin to develop a relationship with them. I often mention Rotaract, because in many cases throughout the world, the Rotaract members that are, you know, closer oftentimes to the age of most volunteers, and our community leaders, wherever they might be, they are great colleagues for a Peace Corps volunteer. And, you know, one of the things that we're looking at Peace Corps right now is something called side-by-side volunteering, which is an initiative to look at individuals from around the world who are, they're doing their own volunteering. Many countries have their own volunteer corps, right? And so Rotaract actually is probably an example of that before we even knew what we were going to use as a term, you know, which is looking at younger people throughout the country who have made a commitment to serving and service and aligning them with Peace Corps volunteers so they become colleagues, supporters, and clearly it helps the volunteer to be more successful, and hopefully the volunteer has something to share with that Rotaract member. So I think that's a relationship that we encourage staff to think about and to talk to volunteers about. I'll shift gears a little bit to sort of the institutional contribution that we continually look to Rotary to assist with. And we do hope that it does result in a benefit for the Rotary members, both as far as developing a new generation of Rotary members that will come in, but also that will enhance the member experience for the Rotarian. So as you probably have heard at different junctures, as we return to countries around the world, our numbers are down. You know, we're looking at our recruitment strategy to see, you know, what we can do to increase our name and brand awareness. And many folks will say, well, Peace Corps has a great brand awareness. Well, it has had that. I think the pandemic, people thought potentially that Peace Corps had kind of closed the doors and gone away somewhere. And so what we're trying to do is to bring to the forefront of people's minds the fact that Peace Corps is back. We are sending volunteers out to countries around the world. We have about 14 countries that have invited us to either come back or to start a new program. And to do all of that, to meet our commitments with countries we've had relationships with for many years and meet the demand of new countries, we need to make sure that our pipeline of new volunteers continues to flow and actually to grow and expand. Many of you on this call have been, I guess I'll say, underpaid recruiters for us for decades. And quite honestly, when we look at our overall recruitment strategy, Return Peace Corps volunteers is always at the top of the list, because when we talk to folks that come into Peace Corps, always we will ask, you know, how did you hear about Peace Corps? And it is a Return Peace Corps volunteer. I won't say that the recruiters are not critical, because they are, but they can only reach so many. So when we look at how do we motivate and how do we activate this incredible network of Rotarians, but then RPCVs in general, so that each one of the 240,000 or so that have returned, each feel that they have an obligation to recruit a few new volunteers for the future. One of the things that I know a number of Return Peace Corps volunteer affiliate groups do, and in fact, I know that there are a few of you who are quite essential to a couple of these, but it is the hosting of send-off events. And these have become really critical for, I would say, three things. And I think about it in terms of the Rotarian community. For example, so if you host a send-off, you know, which would be volunteers who have been, or I should say, invitees who might be going to whatever country it might be over the next 4 to 6 months. If you invite them to what is often called a send-off event, what happens is that they get to know a number of folks from their area that are going into Peace Corps. And in the case of the affiliate group and Partnering for Peace, they get brought into the fold before they even go. And for me, I think that's a very interesting, opportunity for the invitee, because they're engaging with a group of people, let's say the local Rotary Club or some of you on this call. They're connecting with you before they go. And what we're talking about is, bring your Rotary Club with you, right? Take your Rotary Club with you to Malawi or to Paraguay or to Peru. And they associate themselves right from the beginning with the Rotary group in the area where they're living. It helps them to get the context about countries where they're going. They will feel that they have a support system in place. And quite honestly, we talk about recruitment, but another very big piece of getting volunteers back into the country is retention. And we have an issue that we grapple with, which is you're invited to go maybe 6 months before you're going to be leaving, and we lose people along the way. We lose it because their boyfriend shows up again, their parents start working on them, they get a job offer that came out of the blue. And so we need to find a way to have touch points with those invitees so they don't lose interest in Peace Corps, and they continue to be excited about the opportunity that they've been offered. So I think that, and many, I won't say many, a number of affiliate groups, RPCV affiliate groups, are having combination events. So they will be send off and welcome home. So you have volunteers who are coming back and getting plowed back into that affiliate group, the Partnering for Peace group, the Rotary clubs. And so it allows them, it's a source of new members for you all and for any other RPCV affiliate group. We have had cases where volunteers who have gone off the country and then they attend Rotary Club meetings virtually. They will touch base every quarter or a couple of times a year to kind of give you all an update about how it's going and how their experience is evolving. And I think, technology is, just this amazing way to connect. And when we talk about Peace Corps, a key piece is the human connection. And right here, we're talking about a whole bunch of human connections coming together. So we talk about recruitment, we talk about retention, we talk about returning. And that returning volunteer looks to the networks that they had prior to their service, that networks they developed while they were serving, and how can they use those networks to find their place once again in the geographic area that they find themselves upon return. And my hope would be that they become sort of the pipeline for Rotary clubs across the country in terms of new folks wanting to join Rotary because they have seen the value of the organization from the time that they were invited into Peace Corps. I will mention one other thing in terms of institutional is that during the pandemic, when we did not have volunteers into the country, then one of the things that has happened is people felt that probably Peace Corps was shutting down. But we wanted to point out to communities and elected officials and taxpayers around the country that Peace Corps, that investment into Peace Corps is not just the 2-year experience. It is a lifelong investment. And I think everybody on this call is an amazing representative of that concept, which is, you get someone who served internationally for 2 years, but then they come back and serve in many institutions across this country for the rest of their lives, bringing to that experience the language skills, the cross-cultural skills, the embracing of diversity, bringing all of that back to the institutions where they find themselves after service, right? And so the current director, Carol Spahn, has challenged the senior staff at Peace Corps, including herself, to get on the road and to get out into the United States to talk about Peace Corps as a critical piece of the national service conversation. People don't usually think of Peace Corps as the National Service Initiative, but what we are offering, just as AmeriCorps does, just as other organizations do, we're offering an opportunity to serve to U.S. citizens. And so what we're trying to do is to get folks out and about and talking to key constituencies. And I will be very honest with you, and again, I know Ted will confirm this. When we get ready to plan a trip somewhere, the first question is, we got to contact Rotary, right? Because again, just as I was doing in the Eastern Caribbean, we do that in the United States because we know that is one-stop shopping. If you want to know who the movers and shakers are, who are the folks who are influencers around the city and the state, going to a Rotary Club is where you need to go. So I express great appreciation to many of you on the call that have helped us as we have developed visits for Carol and also Lauren Stevens, who is our chief of staff, and Thomas Peng, who is our chief admin and operations officer. And there'll probably be many more in the future. So I guess I'm forewarning you that we might be calling to ask for assistance with these additional things. My hope is that the interaction with Peace Corps, either domestically or internationally, is viewed as a contribution to the Rotary member experience. We hope we're not just asking and we're not giving, because our hope is that we, just as you are elevating our name and advancing our brand awareness, that we're doing the same in our conversations about amazing organizations that have members who are living the same sort of service ethic as Peace Corps volunteers do as they serve. And we also hope that by introducing invitees and early entering volunteers to Rotary, that they will then come back and join and take advantage of not only the the friendship that's engaged in being a Rotarian, but also all of the support that you provide to members, like fellowships and other experiences. So that's a lot. I put a pin in it, but I wanted to see if I could get as much into my time as possible. And also, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I think we have a few minutes for questions if anyone has one. And I'll just lead it off. Kate, this idea about hosting send-off events is just such a big thing. And I know Rotary clubs have asked me how they could do that and how they can find out who's actually going. Have you addressed that at all?
Yes.
Because it's always been a problem.
Yes, I know that has been an issue. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is looking at how we can work with the recruitment and selection and placement team at Peace Corps. Because interesting, I mean, folks will say, well, I asked the recruiter and the recruiter didn't know. And that's a deficiency in our system, which is you get recruited and then you get handed off to the next desk, which is the placement officer. And the recruiter goes back to recruiting some more folks, right? So what would be a relatively painless vehicle for us to get out to recruiters on a regular basis? I'm not going to say weekly, but quarterly or every 6 months, a list of who has been invited, so that the local recruiter, in concert with Partnering for Peace or the Rotary Club, can plan one of these events. So yes, we are working on that, which was a snag, which I recognize was challenging.
Other questions? Kate has all the answers.
Hello, Kate.
Or she makes
Um,
them up, or she makes them up. Yeah.
Hello, Kate. I wanted to mention that, I appreciate your comments on the fact that we have this so-called send-off, and
Mhm.
then we have a welcome back.
Right.
We at the RPCVs of Hawaii have added one other thing, and that is during service.
Uh-huh.
So what we do is by getting to know the volunteer before they head out, we develop an ongoing relationship. And of course, with email and all that, it's so easy to stay in contact.
Mhm.
But then we ask them, is there anything that you need that we might be able to provide to you? So we have fundraisers that we don't make a lot of money, but we can afford to send out up to $250 worth of merchandise to the current trainee, or once they become volunteers officially, we ask them, what do you want? And so we've had volunteers who have come back and said, I would love it if I could get a soccer ball. I would love it if I could get a football. We would love it if we could get some checkers games. And so we package these things and we send out what we call Aloha Care packages to these volunteers. And I know when I was a volunteer, every so often we would get these care packages from our parents,
Mhm.
and very much appreciated it all.
There you
But
go.
we can do that with the volunteers through the Return Peace Corps volunteer organizations and Rotary. So I just add that.
Yeah, Alan, thank you. Because one thing that I did not mention in terms of during service is, as many of you know, because you've been working with volunteers for a long time, volunteers cannot, in terms of resources, cannot receive money during the first year of their service as they're, establishing themselves and all of that. But as time goes on, we have seen Rotary groups going to our office of gifts and grant management, and what they're doing is saying, we would like to channel through Peace Corps X number of dollars, and we want it earmarked to this country, right? And so I think there are ways, to send things, which is great. That's not always easy, that's for sure. And sometimes it's more expensive than the soccer ball, right? But the other piece being, you can, through the gifts and grants management, sort of earmark resources to go to a particular country. So thank you. And thank you for, again, what we were saying is that in many cases, Rotary clubs have ended up accompanying the volunteer through their entire life cycle with Peace Corps. And it becomes really quite exciting to have that opportunity to kind of live through the different cycles that we all have gone through. Some of us can remember more vividly than others, but thank you for that, Alan.
Okay, I think Cal has a question.
Hi, thanks. Good to see you, Kate.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that you are looking at the recruiting strategy and the awareness question. I've spoken with a lot of high school kids who are involved in Interact, which is Rotary's high school service program. And I have found the awareness of Peace Corps by name is very, very low. But when I explain to them the top line of what it is and what the opportunity is, their level of interest is very high. So they're like really primed for that opportunity, but they don't know about it.
Yep.
And so a question would be, what kinds of things can we do to try and convert, make more of them aware of the opportunity, and so they can begin what we all know is a long consideration process. One doesn't jump into Peace Corps on a whim instantly. It's something that you start thinking about and working towards oftentimes years before you go. So if you have any suggestions for how we might be able to prime the pump better with high school kids, I'd be interested to hear that.
I have actually one question that would inform my answer, which is there well, I guess with Rotaract and Interact, is there a kind of a centralized vehicle for getting stuff out? Instead of Peace Corps going from one high school to another high school to another high school, is there a vehicle for getting, for example, we have what we call Global Connections, which many of you might have known from the past as Worldwide Schools. We have materials, that we can get out. We have a program called Peace Corps Prep, which is a program which is engaged at the college level, but it kind of gives advice in terms of how to prepare sort of a curriculum to excite young people about service and international engagement. And so I guess, is there that one vehicle?
Well, if I may, it causes me to ask, this is Bill Stumbaugh from Woodward. It causes me to ask about Instagram. Ted, I don't know, do you know, does Peace Corps have an Instagram site? And the same thing I would ask about Rotary National Office. Are Instagram sites for Interact clubs, for example? Now, is there a national coordinated Instagram for Interact clubs in the United States? I have no idea. The areas I would consider doing, because my experience with the young people now is it's all Instagram, pretty much. They're not doing Facebook, not doing much of emails, etc. Thank you.
I'm happy to jump in. I'm Carrie Golden, for those who I haven't met yet. I am the partnerships manager at Rotary International. Our sort of international digital media channels are for an international audience, so we have some trouble posting about the partnership because a lot of it is for US citizens. So Interact, of course, even if we were talking to a global platform of interactors, that might be something we could post. But if we're really focusing on Interact in the US, that would be a different channel. And what's available to me on behalf of this group is to be able to send out either a posting in the newsletter to Interact clubs, or I can email directly to the sponsor, the Rotarian sponsor of the Interact Club. Because of youth protections, we don't have access to individual students or schools in the way that it's worked through the school system, but each Interact Club has a Rotarian club sponsor, and that's who we can contact to try to spread the messages.
If I may add to more what you're saying, I appreciate what you've contributed. I'm living in Ecuador, okay? I've been here for quite a while now. We have an active Interact Club. We do Interact connections with kids in other countries. Okay? So I think even in here, for example, as opposed to being in the US, they knew that they could connect to Interact to American Interact clubs, for example, about Rotary, or to Peace Corps volunteers here in Ecuador through Interact. I think those would be viable possibilities, viable links that could create more collaboration, more interest. That's for you too, Ted. I don't know how it would all work, what the options are, but I just see that among the young people here. Thank you.
I have I'm monitoring the chat, Kate, so I think there's a couple of things I might bring to your attention. Before I do that, I want to mention that, and you might know this or not, but I was in Dominica this past year and stopped in the Peace Corps office, and they were in the process of doing a training specifically on how to do little fundraisers for projects. And I mentioned that I knew something about that and suggested that they might be contacting their Rotary clubs back at home And the assistant country director who was there had me come back the next morning. I did a 15-minute presentation on that, and everyone was very excited about how simple that is just to get in touch with your Rotary Club back in where you came from in the States. And so they were looking at doing that in the future, but I would pass that along as something. And I told Ted, it's like, I'm glad to give that presentation to any Peace Corps post at any time going future if they're doing that training. In the chat, let's see, where was it? Dan Baker asked, has Peace Corps ever worked at the state education or school district level to encourage teachers to invite RPCVs to classrooms? And Dan, if you want to step in, if you want to clarify any of that, feel free to do so.
That Dan was looking for a question that would stump me. Thank you, Daniel. But anyway,
good morning, Kate.
Good morning, Daniel.
Being married to a teacher, I know that sometimes this has to be top down before teachers will throw their hands up and say, "Yes, I have the time to bring someone and invite someone into my classroom."
Right. So we have actually tried to, going back to my question about sort of one-stop shopping, tried to even go ahead with the National Association of Teachers or National Education Association, because in that way, I mean, it's not you have to do it, but it's a blessing that you can do it, you know, so it's giving a blessing to everybody to do it. So I know that the Office of Third Goal, which manages the Global Connections, is looking for ways to make sure that teachers are feeling that they have permission to go forth and do some of this stuff, but also the materials that are relevant. Yeah. So Charlie, I'm going in, working Rotary.
I think that's the main one that was in there, Kate.
So please, Roger, please reach out, suggestions on how to get your Rotary teachers engaging. That's sort of, I think maybe you all probably have more, Vicky's question about how to get the Rotary district engaged. That probably is more you all,
and I did reply to them and I gave them my email address so that I can follow up with them.
Yeah, recruiters. And then we have Bill's generous offer. Then Dan, yep. Yeah.
You know, I might make a comment. You know, we're asking, you know, globally or, you know, headquarters, how you can do a top down. But I think it's also important to recognize the fact that, and I'm going to challenge each one of us to, you know, work with your Interact clubs in your district and in your clubs. My Interact club and connected with my Rotary Club is doing a water project in Uganda. And so I've just asked a returned Peace Corps volunteer from Uganda to go to their next Interact meeting this Wednesday and talk to him about Uganda culture. And he actually knew where this school was, that they're going to be doing this raising funds for this water project. So he can talk about the culture, he can talk about that school, he can talk about the children and why they have to sleep there and stay overnight and what the culture and the terrain is and everything. So I challenge every one of us to reach out, you know, and grassroots and find out what you're doing in your own district and your own clubs. Also, I have a list of all the international projects in my district, and I'm sharing that with the RPCV group in my district. And so they can connect with whatever club might be doing something in their country of service. I mean, so there's so many things we can do. It's not just one top-down thing. It's work for all of us.
Yep. And thank you, Kim. With that, also just a comment to say that I think that's where it's generally always going to happen. I think when we talk about at the headquarters level or at the institutional level, it's more to make sure that there's an awareness at that level and an understanding of the benefit at that level, and then sort of a blessing from that level. But I think the action, and that's both Peace Corps and probably all of our partners. I mean, there needs to be an institutional buy-in, but the action usually is at the ground level or at the local level.
Mhm.
And the other thing, I don't know, Mr. Graham had his hand up. I don't know if he decided something else.
It was similar to what Cal was saying.
Okay.
I speak with our Rotaract and Interact groups. In fact, I just spoke Thursday or Wednesday, I guess, to the Rotaract, and tomorrow, no, Monday, I'm going to the Interact group here. And the young people just haven't heard about Peace Corps. But when you, as he said, you know, they love service, and when you tell them about this opportunity, they get very excited. So we all need to keep talking and remembering to get out to these high school and college kids, Interact, Rotaract, but others too, as many as you can find, because they just aren't aware of Peace Corps, but they love service. They love doing stuff. And once they find out this is available, they're very excited.
Mhm.
Ted Adams has his hands up.
Oh, I just might say, I think Carrie and I can regroup on the Interact thread. That might be a great opportunity to perhaps have a webinar sometime during next year where we can bring together some of the resources that both sides have, and help connect the dots around Interact and the resources we have, to be able to engage them around service and Peace Corps. And so definitely willing to follow up on that.
It's always great when Kate says something, because then Peace Corps has to follow up. Thank you, Ted.
Well, we don't listen to everything she says, don't you?
Well,
Too true.
Anything else? I know we have to let Kate get to the airport.
Ellen has her hand up.
Ellen has her hand up. And actually, please cut me off as you would like, but the flight came in 30 minutes early, so my trip already took place. Go Charlotte. Go Charlotte, North Carolina.
Go ahead, Ellen.
In listening to this conversation, my take on it is that anybody on this call, or anybody who manages to be a resource person on behalf of the Peace Corps in a community such as Northern Illinois, which is where I am, really should send something out to all of the Rotary clubs and say, okay, we are encouraging you to find your Peace Corps volunteers, your returned Peace Corps volunteers, and invite them to talk to or have something share with the local high schools through each Rotary Club. You've just created a wonderful way to reach out using our own Rotary resources, and just, we'll get a kind of a talking piece that is absolutely appropriate and hits all the right buttons. But let's use this as a way to communicate. I'm really excited about this interaction today. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Bill, did you have something else, or you didn't?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to connect me, if you can identify who are the volunteers from a particular area. I know there's confidentiality issues, but if you can identify who are the volunteers, for example, like Ellen's talking about from Chicago or from Northern Illinois, for example, and then you can tell interactors, well, here's a volunteer from, this town in Illinois who's in Kenya. You like to connect with this person and talk about what they're doing. And interactors are going to be, some of them are going to be interested in doing that because the person's going to be a little bit older for sure, but hopefully in their 20s, somebody that can identify with and be interested in listening to, and that actually could inspire them. Sense is, and maybe Ted or others can help, but when I went into Peace Corps, almost all of us were college graduates. College graduates at that time. I don't know what the average age is now as somebody who enters Peace Corps, but I doubt they're just out of high school. Yeah, I'm thinking the interactors have to compete against going on to study more before going in the Peace Corps. So to me, it's kind of like, and like somebody else said, the decision's not made rapidly anyway. How do you get them engaged at the early age of adolescence to be thinking about Peace Corps? One way is to connect with a Peace Corps volunteer, I would think, on the ground, as well as any that can come and speak to them of the return volunteer.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say that the volunteer is slightly older. I think it's maybe 37 is the median age. I mean, but so we're not talking about senior citizens here, but, you know, about 37 or so. One thing that I will mention is what we're trying to do, which I thought you might be going this way, is that we have someone working actually with the Office of Strategic Partnerships to do kind of a country, state by state profile, so that also we'll have materials that will say, 500 volunteers have served from Illinois over the last 60 years, and they've made an incredible difference, and they're amazing people, and blah, blah, blah. And matter of fact, Joe Blow, who is the president of this college, and Mary Smith, who's the mayor of this town, and some notable folks, because also as we look at, why people join, there always is that element of service. But many young people, I compare that to myself, are actually thinking about their future. I was not. I was thinking about those 2 years, right? But how does this fit into my career path? And so it allows you to see that Peace Corps is in fact a pathway to many very successful careers. And people will, and because we talk about, we recruit, a volunteer and their family. And so their parents, particularly first generation, newly arrived Americans, their families are wanting to see how this will fit into a career path. So we're trying to put together these state profiles that we'll have available for our partners when, let's say, as Ellen mentioned, somebody goes out to give a talk, we could provide you with that document so you'd know a little bit more about Peace Corps and how it's played a role in Illinois.
This is great. Thank you, Kate. I think we will have to move on, but this has really been so helpful. Everything you always give us is so helpful. And thank you for, the more communication and the more connections we can make with our own local areas, be it the recruiters. Ted, I think you put that in the chat. Thanks for that. A lot of really good information. So thank you so much. We're so appreciative. And moving along, I wanted to acknowledge Dan Baker, who's the CEO of NPCA. And thank you for joining us, Dan. You've been doing some great work for us and with us this past year, which we're going to talk about. Also, TJ Olalele is on the call. I think you're a new district governor, and I wanted to recognize you. So thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Where is your district?
Thank you. United Kingdom.
Sorry?
Sorry, I'm in transit and there's noise. Yeah.
Maybe
yeah. But
you can.
My district.
I think put it in the chat, perhaps, if you get a chance. That would be great. But thank you so much for joining us. Also, Pat Merriweather has been trying to join us. She's the vice president of Rotary International, and also been a really great supporter and advocate for us. And she's in Mexico, so I think she might be having some troubles getting in. And also wanted to recognize Bill Stombaugh, of course, who is a founding member of the board of Partnering for Peace. So thank you, Bill, for all your challenges to keep us all on our toes. And you always show up in that short sleeve T-shirt when the rest of us are freezing. So, okay, Kate, did you have any more comments before we move on? Okay, thanks so much. All right, next we do have to move on here. We will have our liaison reports from Carrie Golden, who is our Rotary International liaison, and Tad Adams, our Peace Corps liaison. So we'll turn it over to you two. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much. Carrie, should I kick it off here? And then we'll tag. Okay, Carrie and I will tag back and forth, but glad we jumped right into that conversation with Kate. You guys are just creating more work for us, and we're looking forward to it. But yeah, and so in this, we'll do a quick recap here on some of the events, and what we hope they do is give ideas too for members that we can come back to and repeat and and learn from and going next year. A big priority, I'm going to touch on it. The themes are very similar to what Kate laid out, I think, in her conversation with you, but really a big priority early last year was to get the word back out to the Rotary community, actually to the Peace Corps community internally about the partnership. We've got staff, we actually have staff both at headquarters and post who had been working for several months, never having known what it was like to have volunteers in the field. So there was a big learning curve for the agency over these last few years with COVID. And so early in the year, we were able to have region conversations with all of the regions, and which includes our country directors and our directors of programming and training. And those are the folks that really are driving partnerships at the country level. And we were able to meet with all of our regions to inform them about the partnership. We had calls. Kate actually participated, I think, in all of them. So we had she had walked in the boots of country directors as well. So she knows she was able to convey kind of the value proposition of Rotary to all those staff as well. So we let them know about the partnership and opportunities to connect. And that was kind of one of our first wins, is to kind of make all those rounds and make sure that information was going to them. Another thing early on, and we're kind of going timeline wise, was that you may have heard Kate mention that there was actually a couple of trips out to Colorado, big focus, and obviously a lot of this work Partnering for Peace and the partnership came out of a lot of the champions in Colorado on the ground. So we actually somewhat built a trip around an invitation to speak at the district conference there. Carol was there for the whole week at another conference as well as this, Fort Collins, Boulder, Golden, and et cetera. And it was a chance for her when she spoke at the district conference to really touch on some of the, lay out her vision, that we're going back in, some of the key initiatives around climate, around diversity and inclusion, a lot host country volunteering that Kate also mentioned in her conversation, and what we need, and the virtual service program. So those were two things at the beginning of the year. Over to you, Carrie.
Yes, great. And so then in spring, we also, I'm sure many of you know that Rotary has a convention each year, and this is for all members to join. It kind of roams different places around the year. So PFP kindly represented the partnership in Melbourne this year in May, and they were able to host an engaging session, an ancillary event, but in the same event space, about Peace Corps. And I think there were some conversations about what it's like to engage local, either city or national level volunteer programs like Peace Corps. And then in the fall, and really before the fall, a lot of us put some work into bringing together the Rotary Peace Corps Week. And this was, I believe, the third annual one, which is a week-long kind of celebration and activation of the partnership. And PFP did a wonderful job of bringing together interesting. Obviously, Kate was the best speaker of the week, but we had really wonderful speakers from both Peace Corps community and Rotary community throughout the week. And that brought us to a few other speaking engagements that Kate mentioned briefly. But Ted, do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we were very excited to be invited to the Zone Institute out in San Diego. Carol was unable to attend, but we were able to have our Chief of Staff, Lauren Stevens, attend and speak, which was terrific because it was an opportunity also to announce Rotary as our first partner that we were inviting to apply for our virtual service pilot. Previously, the virtual service pilot was open to return Peace Corps volunteers, either they were evacuated or who had served. And so what we're doing is just starting to open it up to folks who have not served in Peace Corps previously. And Rotary was our first partner that we wanted to roll that out to. So we felt like that was a great opportunity in San Diego to announce that. And then Carrie and I are following up with our respective communications teams and recruiters to make sure we can get the word out about the virtual service program, which in a nutshell is it's a donation of time, actually. These are assignments like 3 to 5 months, up 10 to 15 hours a week. These are assignments that have been developed with our counterparts in the communities that we work in, and they're open to Rotarians to volunteer for. So you can find assignments actually on the website. So we'll paste in a link to that as well. But we'll be looking in next year to continue to get word out about that.
Great. And we can also answer questions about that when we jump ahead. We'll do a 2024 looking ahead as well. But we also wanted to share just a couple highlights from 2023 and what we think of as accomplishments, in large part thanks to PFP support. We were able to have some really great communications in both of our organization global headquarter platforms. And so we had a nice article about Kristen Wegner-Guilfoyle. She was a Rotary Scholar and then a Peace Corps volunteer and then a Rotarian, and she's very engaged in her RPCV group. We also spotlighted in both our channels Kevon Baton, who Kim had mentioned earlier. He was, I believe, also a Rotary Scholar and an RPCV, and then founded his Rotaract Club and is very engaged in his community, connecting both the networks, and a few others that we were able to highlight in our kind of global platforms, which is always nice to share. And then we thought it might be interesting just to get a sense of where we've been seeing connections between our two networks. And in some cases, it's to work on a service project and hopefully see that to completion. But in other cases, it's inviting each other to events or sharing about opportunities to engage either virtually or in that community. And we love seeing the diverse connections and activities, even if it doesn't always have to culminate in a completed service project. So we were able to see connections in Zambia, North Macedonia, those continued. In Ukraine, we've kind of restarted, and there's conversations about a new RILA, potentially hybrid RILA event in 2024. Mozambique, Dominican Republic, Charlie can share more about that one. Ecuador recently, and then in Colombia, we're also trying to make some connections there. So just a smattering of our 2023 kind of overview and what we are really grateful for PFP's support to accomplish. So we'll take a moment now and just kind of look ahead to 2024. And Ted shared a bit about the virtual service pilot, but that for us is a really exciting opportunity, and we're thinking very much about how to get the word out. And as we were discussing with the Interact community, where it may not be as easy to promote with the kind of the global communications platform. So we're trying to kind of hone in on some more specific communication avenues, whether they're newsletters or targeted email outreach, social media, district, club level, lots of ways that we're trying to get the word out and make sure that people who want to participate in the virtual service can. But Ted, is there anything else you want to share about that now? And then we can run through, we have 3 other big ideas for 2024.
Yeah, I think I laid out the basics of the program. I did put a link in the chat for folks who are interested in finding more about virtual service, but we think it could be its own opportunity, self-contained opportunity for individuals to participate. It could be a pathway to longer Peace Corps service and the other programs, but we're really excited about how the opportunity to open it up to the Rotary community, as we think they're just kind of a perfect match. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Carrie, what's next? I think another priority would be to find ways to connect U.S. Rotary clubs to MPCA affiliates, and I'm glad Dan's here. I think that connection with both the Partnering for Peace as an affiliate, but that connection with other RPCVs is going to be, and Rotarians, is going to be really helpful in strengthening and emboldening the partnership and getting the word out.
Great. And so another idea that we're hoping to advance in 2024 with PFP and both of our kind of global family communities is that we would love for PFP to take advantage of its competitive position, its uniqueness of being Rotarians, and that is you can use that connection to really help share about the partnership to Rotary who may not be aware of it in non-US countries or overseas communities. And so the idea there is that PFP, I know you do it in the US, but you are doers and you are not afraid to reach out and make some new connections, and that's something that we think could work really well, just helping with the outreach and awareness of the partnership by using it as a starter to reach out to a club in, gosh, I'm gonna confuse. And let's say I know Kosovo, there's a Peace Corps office, or there's also a Peace Corps office in Morocco, and maybe using the Rotary connection as a way to reach out to some new kind of global connections and explain what the partnership is, and that Peace Corps does great work in those communities, and leave it at that. Share how they could engage or with either with the Peace Corps community or with Ted or me as the kind of liaisons for the partnership, and just open their minds a bit about the partners that they may not know Rotary has. And so then the last idea that we're trying to activate, I'll kick it off, and then of course we're welcome. We'd love questions on any of these, and Ted, please jump in if I miss characterizing. But Peace Corps has what they're implementing. They're calling it a Blue Pacific Initiative, and it's really about engaging youth and climate initiatives in 4 countries in the Pacific. And we are trying to connect with Rotary in those same 4 countries and find the people who also care about youth development and youth engagement and climate initiatives. So we're excited to try to bring together those communities and see what we can do together, both I think with Rotarians and Rotaractors, but also Rotaractors, and in some cases maybe Interactors would be part of the participants in some of these initiatives. So certainly we'll be thinking about that as we look to reach out to Interact and engage those connections if that's something we could do in those countries as well.
This is great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to move on here. I'm wondering if you guys, you have this written up, right? So Molly can put it in the notes and we can follow up with the appropriate people. Any last quick comments?
Just to say that we'll both drop our emails in the chat, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have ideas or stumbling blocks, and we'd love to help you think through that and ways to think about connecting with the Peace Corps or the Rotary community that you haven't already connected with.
Thank you. And thank you both. Carrie, you've been so helpful this past year and the past 3 years of my presidency. I really appreciate that. And Ted, as well, you know, I know you've got constraints in a government agency, but you've tried to work around it when you can. So we really appreciate all your support and hopefully our support of you. So thanks. We are going to have to speed along here. I did have some different reports. We have a membership report I'm going to put on the screen, an outreach report I'm going to keep till last, if you don't mind. And I'd like to hop ahead to Steve Warner because we do need to make sure we get our nominations and our new board for next year voted on. So Steve, can I ask you to just step up now?
Well, thanks, Kim. And it's great to see so many friends on the call today. I wanted to just give a very brief background that when we started Partnering for Peace several years ago, we, of course, had bylaws. We filed the legal documents with the state of Colorado, which is where we initially got this started. And we've handled all those annual reporting things properly. But one mistake we made is that we had the board of directors only serve 1-year terms, so that every year we would have potentially all the board members and their terms at the same time. So we had a discussion and agreed to staggered terms. So at the annual meeting, the bylaws require that the members elect the board, the new board members, but about 2/3 of the board are going to be going into their 2nd year starting in 2024. Our fiscal year is the same as the calendar year. But we purposely wanted to create some openings every year so that there is healthy turnover, new ideas, new energy, and all. So with that kind of background, the membership is going to be asked to elect 3 new board members to fill vacancies that have developed as a result of term limits or people's lives changing. I did want to thank all the current board members for this year. It's a working board. So this is not a board where we just sit around and tell somebody else how to do the work. We all roll up our sleeves and pitch in. And many of you on the call today are chairing committees or chairing projects, and that's how we get our work done. I did want to mention in particular Molly O'Brien, who served as secretary this year. Molly has a new job, so she's going to have to go off the board in the middle of her term. So one of our board members is going to be elected to serve the remainder of her term. Actually, we just had another development. I take that back, that all 3 of the board members that we're going to elect in just a minute will be elected for a 2-year term. And when we find a replacement for Molly, that person will be asked to serve the remainder of Molly's term. So the last thing before I introduce the new board members is that everybody could be a board member. Any former board members are on the call today. It's nothing special. Well, I shouldn't say there's nothing special because the board really rolls up their sleeves and does a lot of work. But the work, if you have any kind of skills around organizing or communications, or you have good understanding of both Rotary and Peace Corps, we would love for you to consider joining the board. So with all that preamble, I do want to introduce Rosemary Takis from Northeast Florida. I'm going to ask each of them to take just literally 1 minute to tell you what country they served in, if they're involved with an RPCV group in their community, and what Rotary Club they're in. But Rosemary is a new nominee to be a new board member. And then Shannon Carter. Shannon has been involved with Partnering for Peace for quite a while because she also served as a Rotary Peace Fellow, and she's in Central Michigan. And so I'll ask Shannon to follow Rosemary and just giving you a little bit of background on herself. And then Mike Caruso from Oregon, from the Portland, Oregon area. Mike has been very involved with Rotary for many years and has also been the co-founder of the Peace Action Group. So all 3 of our potential new board members, if you all elect them, have been involved with Partnering for Peace for many years and have helped in different ways, but now they're willing to serve on the board, and we thank them very much for that consideration. So Rosemary, please just tell everybody where you live, what your club is, where you served as a volunteer, and if you're involved with any RPCV efforts. And then Shannon and Mike, if you'll follow very quickly, and then we'll conduct the election.
Good morning. I'm Rosemary Takis. I'm from Northeast Florida, and I served first of all in Paraguay in 88 through 90, and then secondly as an response volunteer in Guatemala in 2015, 2016. And I continue being very involved. I'm a WASH ambassador with Rotary, and so I've water projects going on in District 4250, which is Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize. And so that's mostly what I've worked on, I guess, is water projects. We do have a very small RPCV group here in Northeast Florida. It's called the First Coast Volunteers. And as I said, it's very small, but they are still active. And I'm looking forward to working with the Partner for Peace Board.
Thanks, Rosemary. And then Shannon.
For the lovely introduction, Steve, and hello, so many familiar faces. I'm happy to see everyone. So as some of you may already know, my name is Shannon Carter. I served in Ukraine from 2017 to 2020 when I was evacuated due to COVID. I was also accepted as a Rotary Peace Fellow at Bradford right after Terrence. So I'm group 19, he was group 18. I finished my first master's there in project management in peace studies and international development. And I recently finished my second master's at the University of Michigan in clinical social work. And I'm currently working as a mental health therapist for rural mental health. So during this entire process in the past couple of years, I've been working with the RPCV Alliance for Ukraine and with the help of Steve and many Rotary clubs and RPCVs to support some resources back into Ukraine, given the circumstances on a grassroots level. So Courtney Copeland is on this call as well, and she's the past president of the RPCV Alliance of Ukraine. And her and I worked with the District 2232, along with Steve's district, along with Shahab Alawar's district, and to put together a really amazing global grant where we're supporting about 1,500 in Ukraine with mental health access. So Courtney and I are in the process of writing that up with our connections in Ukraine, and we're also in the process of writing a second grant, global grant for questioning therapy. So Courtney and I will work close together, and I'm really looking forward to working with Partnering for Peace, as I'm a huge fan of this organization as well. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Shannon. And Mike, will you introduce yourself briefly?
Yes, I'm Mike Caruso from Rotary District 5100, which is Northern Oregon and Southwestern Washington. I served in the Peace Corps in Malaysia from 1970 to 73, worked in a tuberculosis control program primarily with Aborigines in that country. When I left the Peace Corps, I went into the family business, and then in 2001, my daughter was my sponsor into Rotary, and I've had quite a career in Rotary. I served as district governor in 2011, 2012, and that was also the year the Rotary Action Group for Peace was formed. I served for a short time as secretary on that board. We also started Peace Builder clubs in our district in 2011. And it was taken up with vigor in 2018 by the Rotary Action Group for Peace. We have about 33 Peace Builder clubs in our district. Worldwide, there's about between 525 and 550 Peace Builder clubs. One of the most recent one is the Rotary Club of Quang Tri in Vietnam. This is the first time I've attended a general meeting. Very, very impressed, very excited about what I heard, looking very forward to the partnership. Our Peace Builder Club Committee has a meeting every other month, and all of the 33 club members are invited. We catch up, we have a keynote speaker, and we had our semi-annual meeting this past Thursday. And Rotary International President-elect Stephanie Urchik was our keynote speaker, and very, very impressive. And she mentioned that she has a very, very strong passion for peace, and is also very, very promoting of partnerships. So this, I'm sure, will fit right into what she wants to do, and we're very excited about having her take over the reins as Rotary International President in July of 2024.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike and Shannon and Rosemary. I do want to also mention that in addition to myself and Kim, who have 1 year left in our term, Cal Mann, Ed Pettit, Terrence Stevenson, Ruta Casablanca, Alan Kanuski, Ellen Young, and Chantel Dorkin all have another year. But right now, I'm going to turn it back to Kim to conduct the election of Mike, Shannon, and Rosemary. And then I'll finish by just letting you know who the nominees for officers are going to be for next year, even though the board is the entity that elects the officers. So Kim, would you conduct the election, please?
Sure. If there's no questions, I think all in favor of this 3-person slate for the board for 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Great.
opposed? All right, by general acclamation then, I think we welcome Mike, Shannon, and Rosemary. I'm just delighted that the three of you, and thank you all. This is great, and we're really looking forward to it. Great, and Steve, I'll give you one more minute.
Just one more minute, Kim. Thank you. Kim already put in the chat window our appreciation to Erica Brule, Molly O'Brien, Molly's on the call right now, and Fred Cowan for their service this past year. Again, the bylaws say that the new board for 2024 elects the officers, but I want to let you know that Charlie Hunt has agreed to serve as president in 2024. Ed Pettit from Houston Skyline Club, you can see his logo there, is agreed to be vice president. Molly, new job responsibilities. She just told us recently that she couldn't continue on the board, and so we're going to really miss her. But Cal Mann has agreed to be the secretary next year. And Ross Fieser, who called me just before the meeting started and is ill this morning, is going to stay as treasurer. And then Kim, as the Kim, is remaining as an officer because the board created a position called immediate past president. So she'll be the immediate past president. So that's Charlie, Ed, Cal, Ross, and Kim will be the officers for Partnering for Peace next year. So thank you, everybody, for your service. It was a pleasure to chair the governance committee and also serve with Chantel Dorkin, Bill Miller, and Wick Rowland, that was the governance committee for this year. So Kim, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Steve, and thank you again for all of our board. This year, we did a lot of work, a lot more than with the volunteers back and with the Rotary reactivated and COVID gone. I mean, it was a busy year. So I thank every single one of you that's been on the board for what you all the work that you did. And I apologize. We are supposed to be done at 12:30. If it's all right with Alan and Ruta, can I just put a couple of your slides up for things you wanted to point out? Hope that's okay.
Sure. And I just would like to say, if I may, that the Rotary Peace Corps Week, I feel, really brought people in. So a lot of members in both October and November.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Ruta. Yeah, we did have. We have over 650 people in our database. Some of them are expired members, and we forgot to re-up. I know I forgot to re-up this year. So if you're not a member, please go. It's free, but we also ask for donations. We will be sending out a note with the presentation here. He'll also send out the treasurer's report. Ross was taken ill, but we're in good stead. We've got 3,500, I think, in the bank. And as you know, we're a 501c4, so we don't raise funds for projects. We leave that to Rotary and all the different opportunities that Peace Corps volunteers and RPCVs have to respond to funding. I just wanted to point out, Alan asked me to put this up on the screen because we need your help. NPCA, and again, thank you, Dan Baker and NPCA. In their survey, they asked what affiliate groups would be interested in learning more about the partnership and about Rotary. And we have 31. So we have a great outreach opportunity for next year. And I'll speak for Ellen Young, who's going to be heading this. She and Alan will be heading up another outreach to the district governors to let them know about RPCVs, let them know about the affiliate groups in their areas, let them know as we learn more and more about the send-off parties, et cetera, and how they can engage in that. A lot of opportunities. But here, I just wanted to put this on the screen. So if you have any allegiance to any of these areas, please email us at info@partneringforpeace.org. So Ellen and Alan can put you on the list as one of the outreach people. Membership report we've already done. We've got the governance. We've got that all done now. Thank you for letting us speed ahead. I want to encourage everybody to go to our website. Many people, in particular, Charlie Hunt, but lots of people have done a lot of great work with flyers and presentations, etc. My charts, documenting our joint projects that we continue to document. There's so many more we can do, and we're trying to get more detailed about them so others can learn from the joint projects and can replicate them more easily. That's all on our website under stories and under our database. And one lovely chart that Ellen has uses in her presentations. Every single one of us need to take a picture, write a story, send it in to us, and repeat. So we can really document what everyone's doing. I'm going to put up a list here of opportunities to be more active and be part of the committee. We like to bring in our board members from committee work. So I'm going to leave this on the screen, and then I'm going to stop talking for a second. And I apologize, Alan and Ellen, especially. Did you want to say anything more about outreach for next year?
Well, I think the only thing I can say is that everything in this meeting has been about outreach. And that's exactly what we want everyone to do. I mean, sure, we have ideas on how we can do things, but your everyday conversation with friends will spread the word very, very well. And I think you've done a great job so far. So let's just keep on going.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Any last comments? And I'm going to, well, we're only 5 minutes late. So please send us emails. We do read them and appreciate everyone. This is my my last year as president, and I was honored and privileged to be the leader of such a wonderful group of board members and volunteers that have helped us along the way for the last 3 years of my my participation as president. And I thank you all for that. And with that, I think we are going to close our meeting. Can we have a motion for adjournment?
No one
I'll
wants
make
to
the
leave.
motion.
No, you can't do that as president.
All right.
So moved.
Second to Steve Werner,
All
second.
right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you in January.
You do the
Bye-bye.
same. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you, Kim.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.